Hello YouTubes, this is the 22 Cruise, and I want to show you how to do a oil change on a 2013 Mustang GT Track Package that we have in one of our garages. This is also a good tutorial just for anyone looking to change an oil and some tips and tricks to use to make an oil change as easy as possible. The first thing is identify what type of oil. In this Mustang, as you can see, it's 5W50 full synthetic. Next is identify where the jack points are in your car. On a Mustang GT, as you can see, there's little arrows on the rocker panel that identify the pinch welds and where to jack up the car. You can use standard floor jacks or hydraulic lifts if you have them. I have this quick jack set. It's the 7000 series, and it has really changed the way I work on my cars. It's much safer, much easier to use, and I really enjoy it. The additional thing is that it also doesn't do damage to your undercarriage due to these rubber blocks that you install. As you may have seen, there was a little bit of damage on my pinch welds. That's because I recently got this quick jack. So this car has been jacked up with standard jacks in the past. Just make sure you've centered these rubber pieces on the pinch welds and underneath your jack points of your car. Once that is properly done, you'll want to connect all the hydraulic hoses to the hydraulic pump. The quick jack set that I have is available through Quick Jack, and what it's really primarily used for is for somebody that wants to be able to take their jack with them to a track day or something along those lines. So it comes apart into 3 pieces. It's very simple to attach everything. These are our quick connects and disconnects for hydraulic lines, and it does come with those dust covers. Those dust covers are there primarily just to make sure dust, dirt, and debris doesn't get into the quick disconnect and cause an oil leak. Once you've connected the hydraulic pump, now you want to connect the hydraulic lines to the actual jacks themselves. Once both sides are connected, you're ready to jack up the car. Simply press the up button on your remote and the car will start to lift. My dog is fascinated by it. Once the car is to the desired height, you want to make sure that the quick jack itself is locked into place. You are going to be underneath the car to change your oil, and the last thing you want is for something to fail and it to fall onto you. Many people die every year from simple oil changes and jack failure. Once you have the jack positioned properly, you press the down key until it gets to the lock setting and it is held in place. Underneath the car, you want to identify your oil plug. Because I was taking a video for this and the angle that I was underneath the car, it was a little tough to get to this time, but this should not be on very tight. This was on a little tighter than I typically have it, and because the angle that I was working at due to the camera, it was a little more difficult to get out. As you start to unthread the plug, one technique I use is that I'm putting positive feedback back onto that plug, pushing it towards the oil pan. This way, as you're getting down to the last 1 or 2 threads of that oil plug, you're still holding the oil into the oil pan. Once you realize that you have gotten it completely threaded out, simply pull it out quickly, and that will eliminate any kind of splash out or major oil spill that you'll have to clean up later. In the 2013 Mustang, you really need to let the oil completely drain out of the oil pan before you start to move up to the oil filter removal. Main reason for that is you can use multiple pans if you'd like, or a really large pan, but they are fairly far from each other, so you really need to do one before you do the other. To get to the oil filter, you need to take off this belly pan, and to do that, you just take out these 3 bolts. Once the bolts are removed, I always like to put them in a magnetic tray. This keeps your bolts in one safe place, away from everything, and you know where to get them. Now in this Mustang, you can simply fold down the belly pan, and then what you have remaining there is the oil filter. Before we go to remove the oil filter, I always tighten back in the oil drain plug, and then I can move my oil catch pan up to where I'm going to be working. Now I have to say that this is one of the worst designs for an oil filter location. Having an oil filter upside down underneath the car is difficult as it is, because you're going to spill oil just by removing it. But there's that lower brace underneath the car, and the oil spills on that, it spills down on the tray, it spills down to the other side of the tray. It kind of creates a pretty serious mess. I do my best to keep it clean. I've tried different techniques, putting a drain up near the top, putting a funnel up there. It makes a mess no matter what you do, so just kind of go after it and own the mess that you're creating. As you noticed, it was pretty easy to get that filter off. An oil filter should only be applied hand tight. You do not need to put a wrench on it. You do not need to put an oil nut on it. You don't need to do any of that kind of stuff. You will end up just damaging the filter or making it near impossible to remove the filter later. Once you have the new filter in hand, I always like to compare the filter, especially if you get it from AutoZone or Advanced Auto Parts or O'Reilly's. You want to make sure you have the correct size filter. Once you have the correct size filter, put a little bit of oil on the O-ring on the filter, and this will help make the seal work better when you put the oil filter back on. Again, only put the oil filter on hand tight. You do not need to really wrench on it. Once you're done with that, you can now let the car back down. On the quick jack system, you just simply lift the legs and that removes that lock point, and then you press the down button. This is going down a little bit faster just because I sped up the video. Once that's done, you can go ahead and add your oil back into the engine. You'll notice that I use an old quart oil system or oil container as my filter, and I think that works really the best. Once you're done with that, run the engine for about 15 to 20 seconds. Then go ahead and pull out your engine oil dipstick. The ideal oil fill line is between the two dots. You'll see some hashing on this dipstick. Many different oil dipsticks have different designs on them, so make sure you're looking at the correct area on yours for your specific vehicle. Once you've pulled it out, wipe it off. You want to put it back in and then pull it back out afterwards. The reason for that is that after you run the engine, oftentimes the oil line is not actually where your oil is filled to. After that, just simply clean up all of your parts, all of your equipment, put them back where you found them, and you're ready to go drive your car again. Really appreciate you guys taking the time to watch this. Hope you enjoyed. Follow the 22 Crews on Instagram. Like, comment, subscribe here on YouTube. And one last thing, do not forget to mark down when you change your oil and when you've done their maintenance to your car. This is tremendously helpful for you to make sure you're up to date with everything, and obviously even better for when you go to sell your car. Having the extra documentation really helps the new buyer understand that you've taken care of the vehicle. Thank you guys for watching. See you next time.